Welcome to our discussion on the psychology of cult TV. So basically TV that engenders fandom, which I'm sure many of you, from the looks of your outfits, are familiar with. I think you'll feel right at home here. And I'm actually going to have our panel introduce themselves and tell us what they consider the highlights of what they do. Maurice, you want to kick off?
Certainly. I'm Maurice La Marche, and I'm highly neurotic. Recovering alcoholic and compulsive overeater. But what you might know me from instead is I was the voice of the brain on Pinky and the Brain. Calculon, Morbo, Hedonism Bot, Kif, Lure on Futurama. I've been the voice of Toucan Sam for Fruit Loops since 1987, which is its own sort of sugar cult. And most recently, I've been in I'm Mr. Big in Zootopia. And so I've had cult movies and cult TV. So I've had my chance to participate in quite a bit of it. Dr. Scarlet.
I'm Dr. Janina Scarlet. I'm a clinical psychologist, scientist, and a full-time geek, as well as a full-time TV show-obsessed individual. And so I incorporate characters from TV shows, comic books, and movies into something called superhero therapy to help people overcome post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression.
Hi, I'm Chase Masterson, and I'm also highly neurotic. I'm probably best known as lead of the Doggo Girl on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I have worked before and since, I want you to know. Most recently seen on The Flash, and I founded the Pop Culture Hero Coalition, which is the first ever organization to make a stand against bullying, racism, misogyny, and other forms of hate using pop culture.
Chase is also the star of Doctor Who's spin-off audio drama series.
Forgot about that. Sorry. Yes, I'm my own spin-off in the Doctor Who universe. I was working opposite the Seventh Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, in an audio series, and they spun off my character. It's called Vienna, and we're in season 4.
Geekfinish.com. Check it out. So, cult TV. Let's start off with. We all have our favorite shows, or our show that excites us. Like, what's either a favorite show or that you can rewatch over and over again, or a show that's really got you excited right now that you just find yourself so drawn to when it's on. Chase, why don't we start with you?
Jeez Louise. What I'm really drawn to. There's a lot that I'm really drawn to. I have to be really honest with you guys. I am most drawn right now to what's happening in real life, and it's really hard for me to focus on a television show more than that. What wakes me up in the morning is doing the stuff in the real world, and I have to say I haven't Netflixed and chilled in quite a while because of that. It's pretty much full time. I really enjoy seeing little bits and pieces of a lot of shows that remind me of the issues in the real world that still need to change, and I love that pop culture does that. Is that okay?
Yes. I love seeing psychological issues being portrayed in TV shows. So my top 2 TV shows that I really, really enjoy for that reason, Jessica Jones and Supernatural.
Anything with a red cape. I bonded with the new with the adventures of Superman. I'm kind of a senior member of this room. I'll be 58 on Wednesday. Excuse me. Thank you. I was born on a Sunday. Sunday's child is full of whatever the hell I am full of. But when I was a little kid, and one of the first color television shows I ever saw was George Reeves' Superman, and then the new adventures of, the Super Friend. Meanwhile, back in the Hall of Justice, the Super Friends. Anything with Superman. I even watched Superboy.
I remember that.
Gerard Christopher version. Anything with that character. I love that character. I feel like that he's what we should all. That version is what we should all aspire to be. The bumper sticker should say, "What would Superman do? What would Kal-El do?" Because that's what Superman does. He saves the day. He doesn't let anybody die, and that's why the current iteration is a little questionable for me. I haven't seen the latest. I haven't seen Batman v Superman yet, but that's the general consensus. I know. I was a big Smallville fan as well. Loved Smallville. Stuck with that for the longest time. Was a little disappointed that Tom Welling wouldn't say yes to the cape at the end, but that was his choice. And also a big Game of Thrones fan. Love Flash.
Flash is so fun.
Yeah,
So fun.
But I'm not an Arrow guy. I don't know why.
No, I agree with you. But like Flash is everything I love. Where I'm like, he's lightning punching a shark in pants. That's awesome. And the shark can somehow speak English despite a lack of lips. We have stragglers here.
Hello, we're stragglers.
Welcome to Stragglers Anonymous.
Jenna, introduce yourself.
I'm Jenna Busch. I'm founder and editor-in-chief of Legion of Leia. I used to co-host a show with Stan Lee. I now co-host a show called Most Craved. I've contributed chapters with this wonderful gentleman and this lovely lady over here for Star Wars psychology, Game of Thrones psychology, Captain America vs. Iron Man psychology, Star Trek psychology, and Doctor Who psychology.
Travis.
I am Dr. Travis Langley, a professor of psychology, best known as the author of Batman and Psychology, A Dark and Stormy Night, the editor and lead writer for a stack of new books, most of which she just named, so I don't have to.
There's also Walking Dead.
By the way, we were having issues with Travis's mic before. Can you hear him okay in the back?
I'm loud, but
You're all right?
It's been a little
project it to Jenna's mic.
yeah.
I'm allowed to. We're good.
You're both fine. I realized I also didn't introduce myself. I'm Alan Kistler. I'm a pop culture historian who focuses on science fiction and superhero narratives, as well as feminism and LGBT representation within them, minority representation, and how they symbolize morality and ethics through social changes. And I wrote the New York Times bestseller, Doctor Who History, as well as the book, The Unofficial Game of Thrones Cookbook, and a couple trivia books, and I've co-authored a few chapters in the books that Jenna mentioned. And I have a podcast called Crazy Sexy Geeks, which you can find on SoundCloud and iTunes. Fandom. What creates a true fandom? Because there are shows out there that have fans, certainly, and then there are shows that just create a fandom where there's a sense of community, but there's also this feeling of ownership, and you're so delving into it. We used to associate that with soap operas, like daytime soap operas, but like Supernatural, Smallville, Scandal. Like we've got folks who just really connect to those shows so much, and there's a unity when they meet other fans, even if they disagree on stuff about it, or they disagree on who should get together with whom. Like there's just this community. What strikes that, anyone?
Let me ask for show of hands. How many of you know what the word fan is short for? Okay.
They saw that Doctor Who episode.
What is it short for? Fanatic. So it is saying we've got this fanatic passion for these things that we love. The question goes to why. Something that appeals to people in terms of strength of character seems to be essential, because the things that don't have strong characters do not tend to be the things that will have those massive fan followings. Somehow the characters must resonate with the people, even aside from the stories and the tech and the toys and all that. There's one key.
I think it's the ability to connect to characters too. So, you've got a character that looks like you, that sounds like you. Representation is important, and when you see that yourself on screen, or what you'd like to be on screen, you feel sort of an ownership. For instance, I think I'm very similar to the Brain. No?
I'll concur.
We shall see, my dear. There is a test, and spelling most certainly does count. Yes! I've got to say, I'm in total agreement. I think character is everything, especially in terms of connecting to these shows. I think Melissa Benoist, is that how she pronounced it?
Benoist, actually.
Benoist, actually?
Yeah.
She's in a silent actually on the end of it? Okay. Has done a wonderful job of making what could have been a very two-dimensional character, somebody that we can connect to. She's got a vulnerability. She's really, she's Mary Tyler Moore-ish in her we're going to make it after all, kind of thing. But it's very important these characters not be perfect, and that's. I say that with the proviso that Superman was the first one I connected with, because he's got two sides. There's a duality to him. He's Superman. That side of him is heroic and perfect, and then there's Clark Kent, who's frustrated that Lois only loves his other self, and that's very that's kind of alive for me. We've all got two sides to our nature, and there's this heroic side that maybe we only get to let out once in a lifetime. We know we're that person, and yet nobody sees us that way. They see us, sort of downtrodden. Batman, I don't know why I didn't mention him. I have a very strong identification with Batman, and I think many of us do, because he's got such a woundedness to him. Even though he's honed his body to physical perfection, and his mental capacity is incredible, his emotional and spiritual side is very wounded. Watching his parents murdered as a small child, I identify with that. And one thing that's out there in the world about me, if you go on my IMDb page, my father was murdered when I was 27 years old. And, I went through a period of deep depression, alcoholism, drug addiction, and then recovery. I did a lot of work in grief recovery, but I connected and it happened within a year of the Batman movie, and I really connected with that film. In fact, at the time that they were casting the film was when my father was murdered, and I was actually working out with John Peters in the same gym, and I just found it so darkly ironic that he was the guy that's casting Batman, and here I was. I literally couldn't go on with anything good for myself, including physical workouts. And just the week before my father had been killed, I thought, God, I wish I had a little more of a profile. I'd love to read for the part of Batman, and then my father was killed. So I really, really connect with the Bruce Wayne side of Batman. And unfortunately, what happens to you when your father gets murdered are the things that happen to me. You drink, you crash into depression, you become a compulsive eater. I'm 100 pounds overweight. These are the things that in the real world you do to cope with that pain. I wish I could just put on a suit and fight crime. But the real world doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I don't have $1 billion at my disposal, so instead I diet. Dr. Scarlet.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Maurice. I think this is a really powerful example of exactly what TV shows and other media can do for us, is that in moments like this, like what you just described, when we're going through our most excruciating experiences, if we find someone or something to connect with, then we might find a reason for healing, or a way to heal or better understand our own experiences. And I think that this is one of the fundamental reasons why fandoms are so big or so important, is that somewhere in there, whether it's within the Game of Thrones community, the Walking Dead community, Supernatural, what have you, there's some kind of an experience for someone where they feel connected, some kind of a struggle, whether it's a loss of a loved one, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's rejection, or some kind of deep, devastating issue. Through seeing that unfold, we might rediscover ourselves, and in that we might actually find a way to begin our healing process.